Official prediction: South Carolina beats Ole Miss by a final score of. You'll have to wait and see. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now, and it is almost game day, y'all.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. It is fantastic to see you. It is Friday. It is Happy Hour Friday. I hope you are getting your mind right. I was going to say getting your whistle wet, but in this day and age, all that kind of seems like there's probably some kind of inappropriate innuendo. Anyway, it is almost game day. We are less than 24 hours from kickoff. I have a full prediction show coming your way. It is not a crossover. Love Stephen Willis to death. That was fun to do that with Ole Miss, but this is our show. It's our game, and I'm going to break down the game for Saturday, and we are going to have a lot of fun doing it. Now, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Also, remember, we are a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, on the Locked On Podcast Network, as well as on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, like I said, your team every day. Now, today's show is brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. Now, if you place a $5 bet, I've been telling you guys this for a minute, and tomorrow would be a good place to start, but a $5 bet, you get a free $200 bonus. That's right. $5 gets you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Let's get into the show, guys. I am fired up. We have a big game tomorrow. Juice Wells and Ole Miss and all that come to town, and it's going to be a big game, a huge atmosphere at Williams-Brice. I can't wait. I hope all of you can't wait as well. From everything I've seen on social media, it seems like everyone's pretty fired up for it, so it should be a good one in Williams-Brice. Now, let's get into the show today. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the game, obviously, the matchups that I think are key, the keys to winning this game. Let's first start with the elephant in the room, because what a roller coaster of emotion we have been on this week with this injury report and Shane Beamer, LaNorris Sellers, and all the above, and Rocket Sanders. Yesterday, we did a full show on whether or not he was even going to be able to play. He was listed as questionable, not doubtful, not probable, but he was listed as questionable, him and Rocket Sanders and Jared Brown. Now, fast forward 24 hours, there was some news that came out from our good friends. I believe it is the Garnet Faithful. I could be wrong. Carolina Faithful on social media, on Twitter. They do a tremendous job. Make sure you guys give them a follow. There's a lot of really talented and great people that are covering this team. And they posted something yesterday. I believe it was them that was saying at the call-in show, Beamer addressed, what's going on with Sellers and who would be the starting quarterback. And he said, by all means, he thinks that final injury report is going to say that he is going to be starting and playing against Ole Miss. So maybe it was precautionary. Maybe it was just something you have to do. In this day and age, you want to be careful more than anything, and cautious with how these things are written out. Whether or not listen, this is the first year that college football has started to do these injury reports. It does seem like it's been a bit of a blank show so far. In some cases, Ole Miss has I think 20-something players. I think 23 total on theirs. Overall, you saw Oklahoma last week. Oklahoma had 5 of their top 5 receivers that were out. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. The whole point of why I say that is Sellers is huge. I said it yesterday on yesterday's show. Sanders, I think, is even more important. Not just because you have some added confidence from what Robbie Ashford looked like against Akron, but I think Sanders is the key on Saturday, and mainly because we just saw Kentucky maybe put out the blueprint, as to why or as to how to beat Ole Miss. Play keep away. They dominated the line of scrimmage. They dominated time possession. They had the ball for right around 40 minutes of the game. So they had it for roughly 2/3 of the game. Kentucky had the football. They held Ole Miss to 17 points. They forced them into turnovers. Does that sound like a team that you're familiar with? One that's going to be in garnet and white tomorrow, garnet and black. I don't know what the color of the pants are they're wearing. I feel like it was garnet and white. I know that they are asking all the fans to wear garnet at the walk-in. or what do you call it? In the stadium in general in Williams-Brice, and then also when their walk into the stadium starting at 1:30 tomorrow. So anyway, all that aside, I've given you stats. We'll continue to give you stats and all that kind of stuff. But right out of the gates, the good news for this team is there's after a little bit of uncertainty, LaNorris Sellers, Rocket Sanders, and Jared Brown both trending in the right direction, or all three trending in the right direction where they should play. Maybe it was expected. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of gamesmanship from Beamer. And if it was, good for him. Play some mind games with Kiffin, because we know he loves to do the same. Now, getting into this game, I got another stat for you that I think that right off the bat, I think is really important. Let's remember that Ole Miss is coming off a loss. And I think that people look at this program now with Ole Miss like, oh, they're going to be great. They're a shoo-in for the playoff. They got Jaxson, he's a third-year senior. They got Lane Kiffin. People have continuously ranked Lane Kiffin as a top 10 coach going into the season, which I've never understood. I just don't get it. Like, he's a great offensive mind and a great play caller. I don't think he has proven that he is a top 10 coach. Again, 2 10-win seasons in 3 years. That's great. You haven't been able to stack those seasons. And every time there are expectations put on him, you have seen him crumble under those expectations or fail. And listen, I like Kiffin personally. I think he's good for the game. I think he does a great job. I love his story arc. I love the fact that he's sober and he's doing all these things under a new, he is like a shell of his former self. And I think it's for the best, right? That being said, he has never proven that he can consistently do all these things. Ole Miss has not had back-to-back 10-win seasons since 1960. They haven't. And if they don't win on Saturday, they're staring that right in the face again. So is it a must-win? Sure. But also, they're coming off a loss. In games where they are coming off a loss, Ole Miss is 7-5. 7-5 under Kiffin. Almost half of those wins were either by 1 to 3 points and or against teams like Vandy, Louisiana Monroe, Liberty. This ain't Liberty. This ain't Vandy. And this damn sure ain't Louisiana Monroe. This is a different animal. And I think that they will have their full attention coming into Williams-Brice on Saturday. But at the same time, why are we to assume that all of a sudden, with especially with an extra week of prep, why are we to assume that LaNorris Sellers and company aren't going to be able to go down there and that defense, especially with Clayton White, that defense especially, why would we not assume that they are going to be able to handle their business against Ole Miss? Because I think they will. Little foreshadowing to the prediction, I think they will. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it'll play out similarly to how Ole Miss did score-wise, but I think it's going to end in a much different way for South Carolina. Now, that is all for our first segment. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty here in the second part and then give you my game prediction at the end. Before we do, I do want to give a shout-out real quick one more time about our friends at FanDuel, and then we will get into the actual, like I said, the nitty-gritty of everything for tomorrow, the matchups that I think that are the most important, and other things like that. So, listen, if you're an NFL fan, right? If you're a Falcons fan like me, coming off a win last night, a big win. Remember, you can start this season with a big return and a big win on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you want to go look at stats, you check out the latest stats, you can view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Sometimes the best value, guys, if you're betting on games, is a live bet. You guys know I love to make first half bets. You know I love to make first quarter bets and all that kind of stuff. The teams that get off to fast starts, all those kind of things. Sometimes the best bets are live bets, and the best value you'll find there. You'll get started with a $5 bet. Just $5 guarantees you a $200 bonus. That's right. You get $200 in bonus bets with FanDuel when you place your first $5 bets. And that, guys, is guaranteed. That's at FanDuel.com. Remember, it's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Go check them out today. All right. Make sure you stick around. We'll be right back. We're going to get into the game a little bit more and the matchups that are key for South Carolina beating Ole Miss tomorrow afternoon. All right, let's do this. I am, like I said multiple times, I am fired up for this one. I know y'all are as well. The Juice Wells scenario, the storylines. Now, let's start with some of the things I'd be concerned about if I'm South Carolina. yes, stopping Ole Miss's offense. I think that is going to be a difficult task for anyone in the country, no matter how good this defense is. You saw earlier this week, someone from PFF, I believe, or maybe it was, I should have been a professional and looked up the actual name of the person. It was either PFF or it was an NFL scout that said flat out, unequivocally, South Carolina's got some dudes on that defensive line. It's the best and most talented defensive line in the country, according to them. Guys, we're through 4 games. You've got half the sacks you had from a whole season ago. You have like 2 legitimate All-American type players from a productivity standpoint and a production standpoint with Kennard and Sanders. You've got guys across the interior of that defensive line that are fantastic. The linebacking core with Debo Williams, listen, he has been, I don't think at his complete best at times this year, but he's still been the anchor of that defense and how solid he's been and the leader of that defense, right? And then the secondary. And the secondary feels like it keeps getting better and better. And I think they're out for blood tomorrow. I really do. I really do. Now, the concern for me comes on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line has been at times, like it's gone up and down at times, which it needs to be better, right? Like it needs to be better. They're going up against a very, very, very stout and talented defensive line and front 4 and front 7 from Ole Miss. Listen, they went to the portal. They attacked the portal specifically at this position and this unit from the edge rushers and everything like that. And across getting Walter Nolan, a former number 1 overall player in the country. This is a big defensive line and a big challenge for this South Carolina offensive line. I think the bigger challenge is LaNorris Sellers. What worries me the most would be LaNorris Sellers not being situationally aware and the stuff between here, not with his right arm or his legs, but the stuff between here, not processing quick enough or taking a sack in situations you can't afford to take a sack in, having a fumble or a turnover in situations you cannot afford to have one in. That's what worries me the most, especially if he's had limited reps. Now, I don't know that. I don't know that because I haven't been at practice. I've been everywhere but Columbia, South Carolina for like the last couple weeks, and it's been the worst. Actually, it's been a lot of fun. But either way, I'll be back on Monday. But I say all that to say, I don't know the total reps he's had. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to see a bigger package here for Robbie Ashford after his performance, if that's something they give him because he's earned it or if it's out of necessity. I don't know any the answers to those questions, and we won't until tomorrow. I will say the thing that has kept South Carolina from being 4-0, in my opinion, is the lack of elite play or the lack of being able to go win 50-50 balls and win at the line of scrimmage and getting off the balls and win your routes from the receivers. And then the other thing is sometimes just timely and costly mistakes from LaNorris Sellers. And listen, he's young. He is going to be a really good quarterback. I think he already is a good quarterback. But is he rusty, coming off a couple of weeks of injury and not playing as many games? Like, does that happen? It would be understandable if it did. I don't know. I don't know if that happens. I do think he is the guy. I think I love the fact that the room between him and Robbie is fired up and ready to take on this challenge, right? Hold on. Now, the other part is this. You look at there's a lot of players in South Carolina that are going to have to figure out a way to stop this passing offense. I think they're going to have to stop the run game as well, but they've done a pretty good job of that, right? It's not even like the thing with Ole Miss that kills you is they do such a good job at getting chunk plays, getting yards in bulk, and scoring from far. It's like, I think they've made stupid T-shirts about it, something like that. You have got to figure out how to keep them off the field and have the defense get you off the field on third downs. Last week, Kentucky, like I said, I think they provided the blueprint. 1 out of 10 on third down. What happens to Lane Kiffin when that kind of stuff creeps up is he starts going away from the things that works and he leans too far in. And so does Jaxson Dart, by the way. Jaxson Dart's a bigger issue with it, which is like that kid is a gunslinger. He wants to be the hero constantly. And you've seen him throw hero balls. You've seen him make bad mistakes. He had several plays last week where they probably would have been in an even worse spot from turnovers if it wasn't for something else happening or anything being overturned or whatever. Listen, they are going to have to take a step forward, not only the offensive line, like I just said, but also in the secondary. Somebody is going to have to come in and play. I don't need like picks or like, you need to shut down Trey Harris, or you need to shut down Juice Wells. Like, Trey Harris is off to one of the most ridiculous starts I've ever seen in my life. Like, Trey Harris has 804 yards receiving so far through 5 games. He's on pace for 1,930 yards total in the regular season alone. That's insane. Stop that this weekend. Like, get him off that trend and those projections right away. I do think that Lane Kiffin is going to try to force the ball to Juice Wells way more than he should. I really do, because I think that's who he is as a person. I think both of them are. I think they're both arrogant. I think they're both entitled. I think that at the same time, those two are going to want to have like it's not enough to win. You have to do it in some sort of twist the knife, petty way, which is fine if you're the reason. If you're the one that feels like you were wronged. I don't know how either of them could feel that way. It doesn't matter. You've got to figure out a way to keep him uninvolved and disinterested in this game, because I do think that if they can get a couple turnovers early and keep them out of the end zone. Now, like, Ole Miss is one of the best teams in the country at scoring first, getting ahead early. They did it last week against Kentucky. Remember, like they fumbled the opening kickoff. They reviewed it. They got the ball back. They went 6 plays, 83 yards, right down Kentucky's throat. Like right down their throat. There is a lot of game left to be played after that. So you're going to need multiple turnovers. You're going to need to be frustrating and a nuisance and get into the psyche, I think, of not only Lane Kiffin, but also Jaxson Dart. The offensive line play too. Like I said, like this is a staple of South Carolina. You're going to have to win the turnover battle. You're just going to have to win the turnover battle every single time you play. And, it's something, luckily, that they have done a really, really good job on. For most of what do you call it? For most of the season. Now, last year, they were plus 11 in the turnover margin. They forced 18. They only gave up 7. That is not the case this year. They had 7 total last year. They already have 4 this year, and they're all in the last 3 games. Again, it's amazing what happens when you play. You play somebody with a pulse. Furman and Wake Forest or Furman and Middle Tennessee State are not the same as Kentucky and South Carolina. So win the turnover battle. I'm trying to pull this up real quick and see where what the other. Hold on, bear with me here, guys. When South Carolina wins the turnover battle as well. Now listen, they are plus 3 right now. They've only had 6 total turnovers lost. They could have had plenty more. We've seen it happen. But they've also done it in timely fashion. They also could have forced more. They should have had 2 pick sixes. We all know that story. Last year they forced 17. And I'm mainly looking at this in like the margin. Like, what games were you able to do this in? Right? Like, I tell you what. You were -2 margin against Georgia, you lost. You were -2 against Florida, you lost. You were -1 against Missouri, you lost. You were -1 against A&M, you lost. You were -1 against Clemson, you lost. Every single game, besides Tennessee, which was on the road, every single game that you played in the conference, if you lost the turnover battle, you lost. If you won the turnover battle, you won. It's as simple as that. Win the turnover battle. The other part is this. The offensive line has got to push Ole Miss around a little bit and get Rocket Sanders into some consistently like churning runs, right? And I tell you what, I could trade either, right? Give me 4.5, 5 yards a carry, or give me what you did against LSU, which is, 20 plus carries or so, and then all of a sudden, bam, you break off a 65-yard run or a 70-yard run. Give me that. All for it. But this is going to be a collective effort where you have to be dialed in, focused. You cannot be doing anything that is like the little things add up so big in games like this, and that's nothing new to you guys. You guys know that's the case in football in general. Shane Beamer knows that too. It just feels like the way I look at this game, they have to come to Williams-Brice. They have to have something to prove. South Carolina is playing with house money, right? Don't get tight. Don't get tight. Don't overthink it. Don't do what you did the second half at LSU game. Run the offense through whoever is back there taking calls or taking snaps, right? Hit some big plays. Trey Amos is banged up. Trey Amos is also one of the most flagged defensive backs in the country so far through 4 or 5 games. The defensive back from Ole Miss. Take some shots. Like, flip the field. And here's the thing that's scary that is always a big deal when you talk about the teams with Shane Beamer. I just told you all that we talked for 20 minutes. We didn't mention special teams once. If you're able to get the other stuff done, if you're able to win those other things, and you somehow get a special teams play, and again, guys, it doesn't have to be a block kick. It doesn't have to be a block kick. We saw their kicker last week miss a big field goal. That was at home against Kentucky. This is Williams-Brice. This is a different effing environment, okay? And I feel like if you can just Juju McDowell, come see me. Give me a 20-yard return to start the fourth quarter, flip the field, put them behind. Like momentum changing moments are what is going to win this game for South Carolina. And I, for whatever reason, just believe that this team has enough of those in their back pocket on Saturday. That I just do. I need you to win the turnover battle like always. It's a foregone conclusion. It's a little bit of a cop out. I need you here. If you're LaNorris Sellers, I need you here, not making mistakes. Listen, the one game they've lost this season, you lost 3 turnovers against LSU. Can't happen. Cannot have somebody attack his blind side. He didn't see it. Ball pops out. He's a young quarterback. You got a young left tackle. Still need both of you to perform beyond your years, right? Secondary step up. Make them one-dimensional as much as you can. And then get them into a situation where we have seen this over and over again. If you can get Lane Kiffin into an uncomfortable situation late in the fourth where he has to dig himself out and Jaxson Dart too, and to go find themselves a win, he has shown more oftentimes than not that they are incapable of doing that. Average almost 20 points less per game on the road last year than they did at home. Almost 20 points less per game, right? Like, take the fight to them and then let them be the ones that pucker in the fourth quarter. This is not Vaught Hemingway Stadium. This is not some, casual effing brunch club with a bunch of Vineyard Vine mannequins came to life out there, named Jace riding in their dad's Tahoes at the stadium. This is not Vaught Hemingway. This is not Oxford at all. 60 minutes, go out there and go win yourself a ball game. Because then the fun stuff starts happening. You get to 4-1. Now we start talking about some potential games and projections of where this team could go. Oh man, it's a lot more fun. All right, those are the matchups I think are going to be most important. We covered them all. Let's take a quick break, and I'm going to come back. I'm going to tell you my prediction, and we'll go from there. All right, before we do that, I do want to talk to you about our friends at Game Time and the Game Time app. They do a tremendous job. You guys have heard me brag about them a lot. If you're going to the game tomorrow, remember, Game Time is like it is your go-to ticket buying vendor. Like they take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Go get with Game Time. Download the app. Listen, if you create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, you get $20 off your first purchase. It's also the only It's the only app and ticket service that where the ticket prices go down the closer you get to the actual game itself. It has a ton of advantages by using it. Listen, you have all-in pricing, so you can see exactly what your total is going to be up front. You don't need to be toggling back and forth, going back and forth, saying, oh, if the fees are this, or this ticket over here is this much more, but then the fee is higher for this, blah, blah, blah. No, you have your all-in pricing right up front. There are no surprise fees at checkout. You can just make the purchase right then. It also has full-on panoramic views from every seat in the building, so you will know exactly what your seat your view from your seat will look like before you even step into Williams-Brice or wherever you're going to watch games tomorrow. So make sure you do that. It also has the lowest price guarantee. And listen, this is really cool. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you are able to find a cheaper ticket in the same spot on a different app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Game Time app. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Listen, terms apply. But again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. What time is it after this break? Prediction time. We will be right back. Make sure you are sticking around for the third and final segment of Locked On Gamecocks. All right. I'm nervous. I'm nervous about this game, but I feel good. I feel good. And I feel good because a number of reasons. One of the reasons I feel good is that every time this team, and Shane Beamer this year especially, but every time this team has been discounted or counted out or thought that this, like honestly, or if you thought they were going to blow somebody out like the Old Dominion game, it feels like the opposite has happened. They opened as almost a double-digit underdog at home to Ole Miss after Ole Miss lost to Kentucky last week. That's a team you beat by 25 points on the road in their house. Walk in your trap, take over your trap. Some of you get that reference. Here's the deal. They have to come to Williams-Brice. It's going to be hotter than hell, I'm assuming. It is a 3:30 kick. You get extra time to start pre-gaming, tailgating, getting loud before you go into the cockpit, before Sandstorm starts blaring, before 2001 starts playing, and before 80,000 fans welcome Juice Wells and his Benedict Arnold ass back to Willie B. I'm fired up, man. I'm fired up. I have looked at all the different numbers and stuff like that. And listen, Ole Miss is a good football team. They're a really good football team. There's a reason why so many people had them picked to win, or at least get to, not win, but get to the college football playoff this year. But here's the deal. We've already seen them get beat by a lesser opponent that was much lesser than South Carolina. South Carolina dominated Kentucky, and the transitive property doesn't really matter as much or make as much sense. It's not how you can base off of wins, like a guaranteed locks or anything like that. But I just think that with a week off to prepare, an extra week. Remember, Shane Beamer's 2-1 with a bye week. The only loss is a 2-point loss to Florida last year in that weird, bizarre game. Win the turnover battle. Make some big plays. Get those receivers to help out a little bit. Make some big plays. Defense, do what you do always. Shut people down. And here's the thing, guys. You do all those things. As long as you're not playing against a 12th man that's dressed in zebra stripes, like you did against LSU, you will walk out of Williams-Brice on Saturday a winner. I got South Carolina 31, Ole Miss 30. Book it. And we'll be here on Saturday to recap the game, win or lose, but it's going to be a happy, happy celebration when we meet again on Saturday afternoon, guys. Listen, it's Friday. I love you all. I hope you be safe. Everyone that's still struggling with Hurricane Helene and the fallout from that, we're praying for you. Your thoughts and prayers. Every day it has been a nightmare to deal with, and continue to help each other out because we can't always depend on other people or the government. I'll just say it, whatever. Anyway, but here's the thing. Tomorrow, big game, less than 24 hours away. Hydrate tonight, be safe, go have fun, but get your mind right for tomorrow because tomorrow's going to be a big one. So I hope all of you have a fantastic evening. Be safe. Like I said, continue to stay safe in places that are affected by Helene. And tomorrow at 3:30, we will see y'all then and the post game afterwards. So until then, go Cox.